Good morning, Young Kings. Time again for your morning motivation this morning. Um, no running again. Give you an update on my leg. It's not doing better. It may be a while before I'm able to run again and get out there and run. Um, Struggling walking in right now with this pull hamstring. The calf is feeling a little better, but this hamstring is feel like it's going to take a while before I'm able to get back out there and running. So it may be a month, 2 months before I get back out there and run. But as I mentioned before in the video, we'll go through the rehab process. I eventually may have to go to a doctor and actually have them look at it and see what's what. But won't be any running anytime soon. So I'll have to go through and do the rehab, do the time that it takes to heal, and go from there. And an update regarding being still. I will say this weekend I'm settling down. I won't say it's quite stillness yet, but a lot of the activities that I've wasted time with and just pursuing, they are kind of concluding. I did delete the social media, um, the Instagrams, the Facebooks. I didn't delete my account. I just deleted the app off there. So if some of you are Facebook friends or Instagram friends, or I had Snapchat and TikTok and all that other stuff that was just time wasters. Um, so I didn't necessarily delete my account. I just deleted my access to the account off my phone, and I realized I got a lot of my time back. And it's helping in me being still and managing my activities when I'm bored. Um, I just buried my best friend this weekend, and that was a very hard thing to do, unexpected. Um, and still going to probably process that for many months, years from this point forward. I don't think that that's something you just get over or that's something that just goes away. But I noticed that in burying him, I think I've resurrected some intention in my life and valuing life in itself and how frail and how fast it dissipates and just disappears. So there's something positive in everything that we do, even though some of the outcomes may be feeling negative. There's some things that will be positive as a result of you going through that. And I know that although it hurts, it won't be in vain. It will be a spirit of intention that goes forward. So my stillness, um, it's not quite still yet, but it's slowing down and it's becoming settling to a point of rest. And I noticed just this weekend, I was more, it felt peaceful. It felt like I had redeemed some time this weekend. Like time was actually standing still or, slowing down quite a bit um, when I took away distractions. In absence of distractions, normally I would scroll through social media, and I mean, you'd be amazed at how much time or how far that sends you off purpose and off track. You'd be thinking about doing something, and in the middle of that, you take a break and you start looking at social media, or you start watching TV, or you start doing things, and you realize like you just lost your whole day. You'll blink and it'll be like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you end up doing something else, and then you blink and it's in the evening, and then it's time to go to bed, and it's like you lost track of your time. So when we're talking about flourishing while you're frustrated, you got to be cognizant of that. You got to be able to manage your time properly and be able to put limits and restrictions on what you're going to do with your time, because there's only a limited supply. Um, so this weekend, absence of social media. I mean, I got my house really clean. I still haven't set up this room, but um, I found that you know clean in my house. Those who have been anywhere that I've lived, I normally keep a pretty clean house, but this was a different level of cleaning. Normally I'm vacuuming, got the carpet fresh down and stuff like that, wiping tables down and counters, but I noticed that when I had more time that I wasn't distracted, I actually got into uh, Carla Morton, my mama type cleaning. Like she used to say, "Your clean is not my clean," and go back and do it again. So it was a type of cleaning that I got not only the tables wiped down, but I'm going down and wiping down the legs of the table and under the table and the chairs and get into the baseboards. And I was thinking as I was doing this, man, this is taking a long time to do. But then I looked at the clock and it was like 9 o'clock. I mean, I got up at like seven something, to clean. But I'm thinking I have been working so hard, and that, man, for sure it's about lunchtime, at least if not after. Did I work through lunch? And I go look at the clock and it's like 9:15 or so. So I'm continuing to clean in. And I'm thinking, uh, I'm- I won't say that I was thinking I was wasting my day, but I was thinking like, man, this is a lot going on. So I went in the bathroom, cleaned my bathroom, bleached it down, and countertops and all this stuff, and the tub, and then the shower and toilet, get it all cleaned, and you know go through the floor and stuff like that. And I'm thinking like, okay, now it's definitely lunchtime, and it's like 10:45, just before 11 o'clock. So it taught me some valuable lessons. Like in a normal day, um, I probably wouldn't have done all that. Even on the weekend when I didn't have to work, um, I probably would have been distracted by a multitude of other things. And that's what life is about managing distraction. And if you're going to flourish, then there's going to have to be an element of managing your distractions and how you manage your time, especially when you're bored. So I encourage each of you to just do a time analysis on how much time are you wasting, and what are you doing with your time, because days are unlimited commodities now. I mean, it's in limited supply. You don't get it abundance, and you don't get to choose how many you have. So you got to maximize today. So I encourage everyone today. I'm not saying you have to go to the extreme of what I did and delete social media, but I'm asking you to kind of take a step back and to really look at what are you doing with your time. So with today's morning motivation, I want to talk about this myth that's out there, and then there's is a crave that's going across the nation, and everybody is out here trying to do it, and that's be happy, living their best life. And everybody's talking about, man, you need to be happy. Happiness is supreme. Happiness is this, and everybody's going through this phase in life where they want to live their best life. And I understand the concept behind that, but I don't understand, or nor do I agree with the execution of it. Um, Happiness is an illusion. I mean, everybody in this is one of those videos that we probably can agree to disagree, but I'm just going to give you my point of view. And as I was sitting here thinking this morning, I was like, happiness is like candy, purpose is like vegetables. Now you can go eat happiness or eat that candy, and it's gonna taste good. You're gonna think like this is great, and but the end result is gonna be a lot of cavities. It's gonna end up with diabetes and all kind of disease under the pretense of you being happy. Whereas your purpose is like vegetables. Although, if you're not inclined, and I'm not talking about the ones who are vegan or vegetarian, I'm talking about for us carnivores who like steaks, who like ribs, who likes all that stuff. Um, for us carnivores, like really, like your purpose is like vegetables. It's like the things that you need, um, and it's essential for your development and your well being. Like you can eat vegetables and you're gonna extend your life. You're gonna be healthier. You're gonna be in a better state to enjoy life. So if you pursue happiness, and you eat your candy, you might enjoy it for the moment, but it's going to be a short duration. But if you pursue your purpose and you eat your vegetables, then you'll be more in a state of able to enjoy your life. So I remember I was talking to a friend named Ray, and he was saying, um, and we were talking about relationships and just life in general. He's like, Drew, you need to be happy. And I used to tell him, I said, I don't know if I really believe in that. And that happiness thing. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy life. I think I have a pretty good life, no complaints. But I used to tell them, I said, happiness is a place you go visit. You don't live there. You know, after you come back from visiting there, and then you got to get back to work and you grind, and then you get on vacation and you go be happy again. And I gave him the analogy of this. I said, happiness is like Disneyland or Disney World. You go there, you visit, you have a good time, you get on the rides, and it's a blast, and you just have a good time. But after you leave there, you got to go back to work. You just say, hey, I'm going to move here, I'm going to go here every day. That's not how it works. And the people who do live there in those particular areas, they don't view those theme parks like you view them. They look at you as a burden. You interrupting their day-to-day life, and you increasing their traffic. You increasing the cost of goods and services in their area. So your happiness is a burden to those who live there. And those who live there, they go somewhere else for their happiness. They're going to some other place to vacation. So I think it is a place that you visit. It's not supposed to be necessarily your destination of how you're not supposed to camp there. So if you're going to flourish during times such as these, where it's a craze, where you're living your best life, and you notice the people who saying live their best life, they're not giving pictures of them in a library. They're not giving pictures of them advancing at work. Normally, it's some type of entertainment associated with it. Either at the club, or they're drinking or smoking or whatever they may be doing. But it very rarely, if any times, will you see them doing productive things. So you got to be careful about how you spend your free time and how you manage your time. And are you in pursuit of happiness, or are you in pursuit of your purpose? Because that can be the telltale. Striving for happiness, I think you will end up in poverty. Happiness will have you skipping class because it's a nice day outside, and you feel like it's too nice to be in class. And I've done that, and probably you have as well. Happiness will have you calling off work because such and such say they want to go here and do this, and now all of a sudden you're unemployed. Now you got all the time, but you can't afford to do anything because you're broke. So that pursuit of happiness will get you to compromise a lot of things. For me, happiness meant like if I would step out and, at times I would stray from my relationship. I'm trying to pursue my own fleshly desires and happiness. And those are consequences behind that. You reap the consequences behind making those decisions. So when you pursue purpose, it's the exact opposite. Purpose is going to have you focused. It's going to have you driven. It's going to have you to a point where like, all right, once I finish this, and you have that anticipation of a future hope of a dream accomplished. And I know for me, I went through a series in my life where I got addicted to graduation, going across the stage, and I started to want to sign up for all kind of class just so I can get that feeling again, that I had when I accomplished something, when I graduated basic training, when I went and got my bachelor's degree, when I went to flight school going across that stage, when I went for my master's degree. It's like everything, I went through the pursuit of it because I enjoyed that feeling of shaking that person's hand, going across the stage, and recognizing that I had just followed something from conception through completion. And it just gave me this great feeling like I just wanted to sign up for another course. So it was like a period of my life. It was probably about a decade plus that I signed up for just about every military school there was. And I was going through civilian education, military education, just because I wanted that feeling of that graduation. And that feeling of graduation was greater than the process itself. Like I would endure a lot just to get there. So I just wanted to talk to you about happiness. And the book I'm going through now, I'm going through a few of them. I'm kind of ADD, so I dibble and dabble in a few different books. And I'll eventually get through all of them. But The Alchemist is the one I'm on now. And I'll pick that up just so you can see it. I strongly recommend this book to anyone that's trying to follow their personal legend in life, their purpose, and trying to get it. And it speaks to you in word pictures. It doesn't come out and make things plain to you. So there's a lot of element of wisdom that you're going to have to apply in reading it. And I've been through the audiobook of this version. I mean, a version of this book about, man, 7, 8 times. And I just wanted to get the hard copy and actually highlight it instead of just listening to it. And I tell you what, reading it is, man, it feels like it's more insightful than the audiobook. And the audiobook was awesome. So if you're not a reader, you got, and that's let me give you this intermittent commercial in between this motivation. You got to find out your learning style. If you're not a reader, then get an audiobook and listen to it. And you got to figure out, how do you learn and how do you gather information. Just because you don't read don't mean that you don't need information that's within the book. So get an audiobook. And if you're not an audio person, then you're going to have to go talk to some people that have wisdom and figure out a way to do it. But at some point in time, you're going to have to impart some type of information into your head to be in a better state. So in this book where I'm at, there's the guy, his name is Santiago, and he's going to the wisest man in the world, and he's trying to figure out the meaning of happiness. So he goes into this wise man. He has this castle and this big palace around, and everybody's there trying to find happiness. So he has to wait like 2 or 3 hours to speak to the man. And he finally gets up to the man, the wise man, and he asks him the purpose. How do you find happiness? And the wise men say, hey, that's going to take a long time for me to explain that to you, but why don't you do this? He gave him a spoon with 2 drops of oil on there. He says, I want you to walk through my palace, and I want you to observe everything around there, but be careful. Do not drop that oil. And when you get back, then I'll explain to you the meaning behind happiness. So Santiago goes around the palace, and he's focusing on this spoon, carrying the spoon with just 2 drops of oil, and he's just walking around. And he walks around for a few hours, and he comes back to the wise man, and he asks the wise man, what's the meaning of happiness? And the wise man asked him some questions. He said, did you notice all the tapestry and the appliances in the palace? And the boy was like, no. He said, did you notice the garden that it took 10 years to build? Did you notice this? Did you notice that? And the boy was like, no. He says, but I have the oil. Here's the oil that you entrusted to me. So then he says, well, it's hard for me to tell you about happiness if you really didn't observe what's in my house or whatever. So then he sent him back out a second time. And he says, I need you to go observe these things, so see the beauty that's contained within here. And then you come back and we'll talk about it. So he sends him out a second time, and the boy is in amaze at all the furniture and stuff that's in his house, the gardens and all these things. And he takes his time to take it in, the sunset and everything. And he comes back to the wise man, and he's telling them about all these amazing things that he just saw. And then the wise man asks him, he says, now where's the oil that I entrusted to you? And he looks down at the spoon, and the oil is gone. Then the wise man says, hey, the key to happiness is to be a good steward over the things I entrusted you, but also be able to see the beauty of things around. And I think that is the thing that really stood out to me in that. It's like there's an element of us being able to, as they say, carpe diem, seize the day, and be in the oneness of the moment, and being able to understand and appreciate the beauty of today. But there's also an element of that we have to be intentional about what do we do with today. So God has entrusted us to it, and we can't just go around and pursue the good things, but there's an element of us have to use wisdom to also be intentional about our purpose. So why do I say that? As I mentioned, this weekend, buried my best friend, and it was hard. I mean, this is one of the things that caught me off guard. It's like but it helped me to realize how arrogant I was to think that tomorrow was coming, you know. And there's a saying out there that says, you know, hope for the best but plan for the worst. Um, but at the same time, it's one of those things like you got to be intentional about your time. So you got to plan as though you will live another 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it may be. Um, but you got to be prepared as though it may end today or tomorrow. You don't know. There's no guarantee in that. So you can do everything right and still have an early demise. I know my younger brother, he passed at age 16, and in one of the previous videos I went over that. So there's a wide range. There's people, and the thing I noticed about this weekend when we went to the funeral, first on Friday when we went to view the body, it was a hard time. Um, but what I noticed during viewing the body is like death is undefeated. I mean, there were people that were cycling through there for their loved ones, and some were a lot younger than my friend had died, and very few were older, and he died at 44. So death is not a discriminator either. I mean, it was like, and it's undefeated. Like nobody gets out of life alive. Um, you will you will one day be there too. So while you're on this side of the grave, what do you do with your time? How do you manage your life to a state of productivity? Are you going to go and chase happiness, as everybody's saying, live your best life and be distracted? Or are you going to be intentional and be on purpose and start figuring out what is your personal legend? What is the reason why you're here? And that's why I say my best friend didn't die in vain, because it kind of reminded me of that. It reminded me of how frail and fragile life is. And it got me to a point of being intentional. And I think that's why I'm in this process of slowing things down and being still, because I'm redeeming my time as well, as far as being more intentional about how I spend it, and not just being arrogant to think I can go give this TV 4 or 5 hours, or give social media unlimited supply of my time, and not be intentional about what I'm doing with that. And if you're not careful, um, it'll escape you. And I'll give you a story of a friend, and it's not to put them on. Man, I'm at 20, going on 23 minutes already. But y'all be all right. Y'all don't listen to the whole thing anyways. But it's more for me. I had a friend, Will, one year, you know, he graduated 2 years before us. And he had went off to school at Howard. And he came back one summer, I think it was our senior year or our junior year in high school. But he was already in college. But that summer, he came back to visit us. And man, I tell you, that was one of the best summers of our lives. I mean, we partied and partied some more. And for those, I was put out the house, so I was already living down at a college campus already. So I didn't have the restriction of, hey, you got to be in at this time. And, you know, I was living on my own. Yeah, I was put out at age 17, so I've been living on my own since 17. Um, but he came and he partied, and we had a great time. And at the end of that summer, you know, towards the end, one of my friends, James, one of my other best friends, he's like, hey, Will, man, we had a great time. I think you should transfer to Michigan State so we can still hang out on weekends and just kick it. And, you know, Will had been away at school, and he had been doing well. You know, obviously he was homesick from being away from home, but he was doing it. And I think this summer of fun encouraged him to get a little closer to home, to friends. So after a long contemplation over what he should do, whatever, Will decides to transfer to Michigan State. But at that time, it was too late for him to get enrolled in school for the next semester, because it's the end of the term and the cutoff had already happened. So his intention was to take a year off school and to get back in school the following year. And I will tell you this, it's been 26, 27 years, and Will has not got back in school. Now, the guy is still successful. I mean, I was just talking to him over the weekend. Great guy. But that one decision to take a break because of fun and happiness and entertainment um, derailed him from his educational pursuit. And it's been 26 years, 27 years since that happened. And he hasn't enrolled back in school. So I say this, and there's a lot of people that are going through this graduation season and they're figuring like they need to take a year off to get their head right and this and that. But sometimes delays become your lifestyle, you know, your setback. You end up saying you're going to take a break and then you end up really broken from the decisions that you make during that break. Um, so it's one of those things you got to be intentional. Um, don't go out there pursuing that happiness or living your best life and miss being productive. And because productivity is your best life. A lot of people they like the end results. They're like, man, I wish I had a house like this. I wish I would do this. Why are you still going? I would stop. And it's that mindset of them saying they would stop is the reason why they don't have this. Is because they don't understand like who I am and how I pursue things. Like enough is not enough. You just got to go. And there's an element of balance in there too that I need to get there. But the reality of it is, it's like the people who are on purpose are the people who they look up to. I mean, they go to these entertainers and they applaud them for doing a good job. They admire their cars and stuff of that nature, but then they don't want to put in the work and effort that it takes to get that. So don't live your best life, in the form of being entertainment, but live your best life as far as being productive. So real briefly, as I'm coming up on 30 minutes on this, I was taken to Psalms 90, and this is kind of like, it's kind of been, God has just been directing me. So I'm not really so versed in the Bible, but God would just give me a vision of where I need to go, and eventually I need to get more in depth into this. But Psalms 90 says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were born, like, man, like, how do you give birth to mountains? And that is a God-like activity. I mean, like it says, before the mountains were born, or you gave birth to the earth in the world. So this came from out of nothing. And the Spirit of the Lord, if you go to Genesis 1, was just hovering. And we'll get to that. There's a story that I want to talk about that on another video. And it says, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. And it's like, man, from the beginning of time, like in God, there's no beginning, there's no end. So like, where do you start when you say there's no beginning, but there's just God? It says, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You have turned man back into dust, and you will say, return, O children of man. Like, and this is kind of like in essence of my best friend, like he was returned back to the dust. Like one time, one day we will all return back to that dust. Like we are just dust. So it goes on and it says, so teach us the number of our days that we may present you a heart of wisdom. Like, it's like value the commodity of today. And it says down in the bottom, because I got a study Bible here, it says, evaluate the use of time in light of the brevity of life. I'm going to say that again. It says, evaluate the use of time in light of the brevity of life. I mean, like, your time is in limited supply. You won't live forever. You don't have another day to put off your dream. You don't have another day to put off your purpose. Every day must be an intentional day. Because if you're not, you realize years will go by and things won't get done. As I mentioned in previous videos, like, I'm going to the grave tapped out. There's no use for potential in the afterlife. Everything that's been gifted to you was for the development and execution during this life. You don't need to take no talent to the grave or any potential to the grave. It's time for you to execute, and it's time for you to start realizing like life is fragile and frail. Don't put off tomorrow what you can start today. So even if you just start reading 5 minutes, even if you just stay off social media up until lunchtime, even if you just want to take it away for a day, be intentional about how you are managing your time. Um, Evaluate the use of time in life, of the brevity of life, meaning like it doesn't last forever. There will be an end. So keep that in mind. Don't pursue happiness and candy. It's time to eat those vegetables. So y'all make it a good day, but make it a good day because they are in limited supply. There will be a day that you won't be here. So be intentional. If you're hearing this, be intentional today. Have a great day, Kings.